What's up, everybody? Welcome back to LED Live. How would you respond if God told you to make an image of the beast?
Find out on this episode of LED Live.
Light exposing darkness.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us for this week's show. We have a special guest today. We have Jason. But before we get into that, we want to just tell you that we thank you so much for our Patreon donors. Without you, we could not do this show. If you guys want to help sponsor this show, you can click the link below, become a Patreon partner. You get a lot of cool behind the scenes footage, a cool t-shirt, and just you get to meet us personally and just see what we do around here. Also, we have DVDs and full-length documentaries that are not on YouTube. You can get those on Vimeo for digital download, and also we have stickers. If you want to sticker up your car or whatever, that's a good way to help support us and also to promote what we do. Also, we have t-shirts on our Teespring store and also at littlelightstudios.tv. You can order those directly from us. It's a big help to us. And also, they're just really cool ways of sharing your witness. We like to say you can wear your witness with these shirts. And now, let's meet Jason. So I met Jason because I ran across this video of a guy who created this big image of the statue of Nebuchadnezzar. It's a prophecy in Daniel that tells all the kingdoms that happened. And historically, we can look back and see that Bible prophecy was fulfilled by these kingdoms. And so I was just kind of looking into who he knew and stuff, and ran across your page because you helped design some of the artwork for this. And so I just saw your channel and I was like, man, I love this dude's artwork.
Alright, here's the second set of cards that we've been working on. These ones are called Kingdoms. So these are based on Daniel 2, 7, and 8. The first kingdom that we see is Babylon, head of gold, Daniel 2, also referred to as a lion in Daniel 7.
And you were doing images from Daniel and Revelation, and I was just like really intrigued by it.
You want to bring out the statue? You have a little one, right?
Oh, the little Daniel one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we can show the Daniel one.
Little Light Studios presents
A new anime documentary.
Oh, I'm so excited about it.
Coming soon.
What's coming soon? Tacos?
No candy, it's the documentary coming soon.
Make sure you're following us on social media so you know when it comes out.
Yay!
Show us all this. I think we got it.
That was good, that was good, that was good. Okay.
Did
you break it?
Is it this one? Oh, well, yeah.
So you have the one that's actually realistic where the feet get
This is
busted up.
there you go.
This is a real practical illustration because this is no longer gonna stand.
When that rock of Jesus comes and destroys that thing,
Yeah.
and he sets up his kingdom. Yeah, just for anybody out there who doesn't know about this, it's not really like Scotty's little image he's bound to or whatever. This is a prophecy in Daniel, or Nebuchadnezzar had a dream about an image, and he actually forgot what the dream was, but Daniel prayed to God, and God revealed the dream to him and told him what the meaning was. And so all these medals actually represent a kingdom, and when you look back in history, you can see that prophecy was indeed fulfilled, and it's just a great way to show that the Bible is trustworthy and the prophecies are true.
If you want to know more about that, we actually have Bible studies.
That's right.
Awesome.
Where can
So-
we get those?
We'll put the link in the description below, but I think it's lls.tv/Bible study
Yep.
or
Awesome.
Bible school.
And
one of the
you've
two.
actually seen somebody going through those, right?
Yeah, actually several people have been going through those.
Awesome. Yeah, we just started that, so that's a really cool thing that we like to help people, because you can only cover so much on this show, and we want people to be able to go further in their studies.
So I know this show is supposed to get into Jason's life and Jason's testimony here, but I just have to say a second about this image that I first also saw you create, the statue. Hopefully we can show some clips of this because it is impressive. I mean, the scale that you guys did and the massiveness of this thing.
Oh, it wasn't that size?
No, it wasn't the size. No, yeah, it wasn't a little thing. I mean, how tall was it?
I want to say 30, almost 40 feet.
Oh.
I can't remember.
Is
all
it
the-
to scale? Because the
No.
real one was
No.
like 66
Yeah,
feet
it was
high, right?
huge. It was-
So that would be a very difficult thing to probably create. But nonetheless, it takes a semi to move this thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
And so impressive that when I saw it, I just went, wow, this is a unique way to witness to people. So I'm excited to hear what you have to say.
So we've been talking for a little bit, and then the other day you just said, "Hey, you still in Chattanooga?" And so he came and he brought a giant beast with him, and we'll show a picture of that. But it's the harlot riding the seven-headed beast. So what is all this about, man? I want to know where God has taken you through this journey. I'm curious to hear a little bit of your testimony, where you were, and how God's got you through that, and what He has you doing today.
Yeah, I was born into a Christian home. My parents were missionaries. We traveled all around, but it got a little interesting when I got around the age of 13 or 12 or whatever. I saw hypocrisy happening in the church. I mean, there's hypocrisy in every church, but it really disturbed me, and I actually became so angry because of it, because I saw someone get hurt so bad, and the person that hurt them got away scot-free, you know, and
Happens a lot.
and especially when people stand up for those individuals and they say that they represent, you know, they're Christian and all this stuff, and when you see all that, the people that are teaching you and leading you in schools and churches and stuff turn against the innocent, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When I saw that, I became so deeply disturbed by it. I became so angry at God that I actually started turning to the other side, and I started praying to Satan. And it was a little raw, but like I actually told Satan that if he helped me kill the man that harmed that person, I can't say names or anything, but like that he could have me.
Wow.
Once he's helped me do that. And so I knew the consequences, I knew all that, but my anger was so intense against that, and I was so angry at God. I was like, if they're, you know, I don't want nothing to do with him.
Yeah.
And so I started planning what I was going to do. I decided when I turned 18, this is when I was going to do it. This is how I was going to do it. And so I was planning it all out. But as I was living that lifestyle of just not caring about life and about others or anything, I as soon as drugs came my way, I started taking them. I started taking whatever started coming my way, and before I knew it, I was so entrenched with like getting high and just losing reality that became my all in all, and I started losing what it was like my focus. And before I knew it, I started going down a path of trying to find, I guess you would say, the meaning of life. Because once you start playing with the devil, your reality really starts getting twisted.
Yeah.
And the more you start going down those avenues of psychedelics, it just gets worse and worse. But there was one experience as this was all happening that really I saw as a turning point in my life. Was my dad. One day I was at a school, and I had already dropped out, and I just got back from getting high with my friends, and it was at a dormitory, and I was hanging out there, and my dad comes up. My dad would never come over to this dorm, so it was kind of odd, and he comes up to me, he says, "Jason, can I talk to you for a second?" And I said, "Yeah, that's fine." So he pulled me aside, and he says to me, he says, "Jason, I've been watching you for a while now, and I've seen how you've been getting into drugs and all these different things." He's like, "and I thought it was just going to be a phase. So, you know, I just was going to let you go through it and just, you know, hopefully see you come out." But he says, "But you weren't coming out." and he says, and I just want to let you know that I'm willing to help you if you allow me to. And when I saw that, you know what I mean? This is the same dad that when I would come home, high as a kite, just all maxed out on X, that I would walk into the house and I would see my dad, and my family was going through a hard time. And here he is sitting there while his whole family's just getting torn apart by the devil. My eyes are blitzed, and I look into his face, and I know he knows I'm high. And he just looks at me, and he looks back, and he just keeps on doing what he's doing. Not one bit of anger. Not one bit. And when I saw that, that showed me a love. I'm not saying my dad's a perfect person, but it showed me God's love in him.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Caring for me, even though I didn't care about him. I didn't care about anybody. And that started changing my life. I didn't give up, you know, I didn't give up everything, but I took his help. And he helped me move out of the area, so I was away from those friends. And after a while, time went on, and he helped me. I was getting a job up in Canada, or trying to go to school and whatnot, and still struggling with a bunch of stuff. My dad gives me a call when I was up in Canada. He says, "Jason, would you like to go out to the Marshall Islands with us?" I said, "Are you kidding? I just got this school thing, and I got all this. All this stuff's been opening up." And he goes, "Well, let's just put it to a test. You know, like let's ask God where He wants you." Wow. And he told me, "Jason, have you been acing your tests?" And I said, "Yeah," because I was studying anatomy and physiology, or anatomy for to do spa masseuse or whatever. And he says, "On your next test, if you get below 80%, then that means God wants you to come with us." Wow. I'm like,
Nice.
yeah,
challenge.
Yeah. I'm like, God, I barely even believed that there was a God at that time. I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. And so I went and I took the test. I came home. I got the results or whatever, and it was 78%. Wow. And I'm sitting there and I'm just like, "Are you kidding me?"
You've been acing all that before.
And it was all memorization. So it was just like index cards. You're just going over all the muscles, everything.
Wow.
And so I find out, my friend calls me up. He's like, "Hey man, you had 2 index cards in my car. You lost them." So it was those 2 cards.
Study.
Yeah. And so I moved out to the Marshall Islands. I got out there.
So you took that as a sign.
Oh, I did. Yeah. I was like this. Like I believe. Like I had faith in it. Like, you know what I mean. Like especially coming from my dad. Yeah. And so I got out to the Marshall Islands, and I was just like, awesome, man. And like I'm gonna try God out. I'm gonna do this or whatever. And I get out there, and I go to the fridge, like, because we just got into this house, and someone was living there or whatever, and like we're staying with him, and I open the fridge, and there's a case of beers there, and I was like, oh, sweet. I'm out in the ocean, I got beers, and I took it out to the beach, and I get out there, and I open one, I start taking a drink, and the Holy Spirit goes, "I brought you all the way out here, and this is what you're going back."
Because you had been clean for a while?
Yeah, I quit drinking when I left Canada, and I came over there. I just quit it cold turkey, and I was like, okay, God wants me here. I'm going to try and like work this out. So while I was there, I threw those beers into the water, and I was done. And I went to God, and I said, "Lord, if you want me to follow you, you need to help me to read again, because I'm so bad at reading. My mind is so distorted and whatever that." And he helped me read and helped me to understand, and that's where I started basing it. I'm like, you know, church is good and all, but I want to know for myself. I want to know you personally. Yes. That's where, I mean, that's the story of how God brought me to that.
So you had mentioned something earlier that I think is a really good point for people to hear. Where was it when you were like, it was your last experience with drugs, and that was another kind of test for God, or if this was a way to find Him?
Oh, with the, like, probably psychedelics and whatnot.
Because there are a lot of people that believe, well, you know, these mushrooms, God created them, and if you get this experience, you know, it's just a way for you to experience God. And some people go as far as to say John the Revelator was high when he wrote all that stuff. Like, God can give you a prophetic vision through these psychedelics, but you probably had that in mind when you did this. So I think it's good for people to hear the truth about that.
I think it's always interesting to me the amount of dabbling into drugs that I did as well. It was very interesting. If I think back and I reflect on the people that I got involved around, the conversation always goes to God. Like, have you ever noticed that? Like, it does not matter if you're with a ton of people that could like literally care less. You do a bunch of drugs, it's going to where God is. You know what I mean? And like it's all distorted thoughts about it, and weirdness stuff. But why does it always go to that? You know?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
No,
just 'cause
definitely.
You're doing something, they call it spirits for a reason, I think you're opening up some kind of doorway.
Definitely.
And it's not a good thing, but I guess it gets you thinking spiritually, Well,
Yeah.
it's the perfect way for Satan to deceive you, because now you think, oh, I'm real spiritual, but what you believe is truth is not truth.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm going to go on a limb here, but you guys haven't seen The Matrix, or maybe you have, but you don't even know. You don't even know the references and stuff in there. But when he's talking about like taking the red pill or the blue pill or whatever like this, and he's like, well, what why am I taking these things? And he says it disrupts the input-output signal so that we can pinpoint you, right? Meaning stopping the communication, and then they can have access to you. And I think that's exactly what the devil's doing to us as well. I think that all these drugs are literally getting in there and short-circuiting or communicating, stopping the communication, and then it's like the devil's got an open door.
Like pouring water on a computer, man.
Oh, yeah.
So I think there's a lot of interesting points out of this testimony. One is, kind of going back to the beginning. Obviously, churches aren't full of perfect people.
Right. You can't look at the church.
In fact, there's kind of two things. One, Jesus said that this is not a place for people who are well. It's a place for people who need healing. And two, if you look at all the seven churches in Revelation, they represent different time periods in history. The last one, God says, is really the most messed up people-wise. It says they're wretched, miserable, poor, blind, and naked. They have a terrible condition. And you shouldn't go into the church, especially in the last days, and expect that, especially God's church is going to be full of these people who are just ready for translation, right now. It's a messed up group of people. So yeah, you're going to see things, you're going to hear things that very well may disturb you. I think a lot of us around this table have either left church or wanted to leave church or started to leave church because somebody said something or because you've seen something, and at the end of the day you have to realize you're not there because of those other people. You're there for God. You're there to worship God. And yeah, can you do that on your own? Yes. But he also asks you to meet with those group of people. And it could be, maybe we need to flip the model on its head a little bit. Yes, you're supposed to evangelize to the world around you, but you may be able to minister to those people as well, right? And help them in their situation, because obviously those people are hurting. You go to church and you put the smile on your face, people ask you, how are you? I'm fine. Everybody knows what fine means. You're not fine. That's what it means, You just something to say because somebody asked you, and you don't know what else to say, and you don't want to dump on them and say, I had a terrible day, I yelled at my wife on the way to church, I beat my kids or whatever. You don't want to tell people that.
I have had people say that to me at church, though. You walk up and you're used to like, hey, how's it going? I'm fine. Oh, pray for me, I'm divorcing my wife. And then you're just like, it's like.
But at the same time, it's like, at least you were honest. Otherwise, and I'm not saying church is a place to air all your dirty laundry, but you don't have to put on airs either. There's no reason for us to walk around and be, more or less dishonest. So that was one really interesting point. And then there was another thing that you said that I thought that we kind of needed to unwrap a little bit. So
about his dad's reaction or something?
No, it wasn't his dad's reaction.
I really appreciated the way that your parents reacted to it. I think that's really an interesting thing because
unconditional love, man.
Yeah, your natural reaction is like, kid, you're doing it wrong. Like, what's wrong with you? And for someone to lovingly see you go through that and just sort of like I'm just going to be here for you anyway. I mean, it's a picture of how I pictured God. We're doing all these things down here that, I mean, just make him cringe.
Yeah.
And he's not sitting up there like smacking us around or whatever like that. He just got to take it, you know?
Yeah.
And
when it comes to kids, though, like you have to know your child. And if you have multiple, even if you just have one, treat them as an individual, not a miniature version of you or project anything onto them. So knowing when to give your child space, when to know if it's a cry for help, and you should be loving on them verbally, physically, whatever the case. Just knowing that how to approach a child can make all the difference in their life.
I got one right now. He's in those teenage years. He's 14, and he is very much like my wife in a lot of ways. And so him and her, just like this, you know. He and I get along great, but they butt heads, which is odd because, you know, I really like her. I really like him. I know what it was though. I was going to touch on the fact that, you know, here you are, you start praying to the devil, and it's interesting. People will go down that road and they never really get what they want. They think they get what they want, but they never really get what they want. And you didn't even I'm guessing you didn't even go through with all of this other, but Satan was like, well, you know, you kind of give me permission, so guess what? You get hooked on drugs. You know, it's like he got what he wanted, but you didn't get what you wanted. And that's the way it always works with him.
Yeah, because, you know, the more he started leading me down those dark roads, you know, especially music-wise, you start to see how he worked in it. And because I would draw, and I would sit there in my room, and it's just a story of like my dad with this all is like I would sit in my room at like 3 a.m, and I'd have black metal just going, and I could feel the spirits enter into the room, and you can feel the power, and I could physically feel the power to draw, and I could draw better, and I could just be going, and I would just be going, and like around 3 o'clock, I turn it all off and I go to bed, and the thing is, my dad has always been he's always been such a godly person in my life. Like even when I was doing all this and whatnot, every day he told us, as long as you're in my house, you're going to have worship. And so every morning at 7, we'd have worship. Every evening, 7, worship. And so, you know, I respected my dad, and I would go up and I would sit and I'd have worship. And I remember that day, that one day, I get up there and sit down, and I look at my dad, and he just looked withered, just distraught. And I'm just looking at him like, what on earth? And he goes, I don't know what happened last night. He goes, but at 3 a.m. I was woken up, and he said there was something so evil in the house. And he's like, I don't know what it was. I've been praying all night. Wow. And I was just like, oh, shoot. I've been bringing the demons into the home. And it wasn't just like, you know, you can feel something, be like, yeah. But then you realize you're putting your family in jeopardy. You know what I mean? So it was just wild to experience.
I can identify so much with your story, dude, because it sounds so much like mine. But yeah, like my parents would call my room Satan's lair and stuff. Same thing, like just metal music. And I realize some of that stuff now. Like back then, I don't feel like I knew what was going on. Like, yeah, I'm a demon possessed or whatever. But I could like freestyle off the top of my head. I can't do that anymore. My friend would just play the guitar and words would just come out and they'd rhyme and make sense and stuff. And I can't do that anymore. And it's not anything like, oh, I wish I had that again, you know? It wasn't glorifying God in any way. I wanted you to get back to...
Well, before you move on to the next topic then, I think it's just so powerful that even in the midst of the demonic presence, that God's angels were still there to prompt your dad, hey, wake up, you got to start praying. I think that's really powerful. That God is there, even though he may not be able to reach you directly because he's a gentleman. He'll knock on the door and wait till you let him in. But he's close. He'll stay by you and do everything he can.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome. And that's the thing is like, I know that God never left my side, not because he would have had to if it was based only on me, because I rejected him and I wanted nothing to do with him. But because of my parents' prayers, they prayed on my behalf that the angels would go, you know. And like I know for a fact, like what you were saying, like he will give you a certain amount of, he'll just keep giving you candy, you know what I'm saying? But there's a place where he will seek to devour you. He'll get you in his snare and then he'll kill you. He's just like a spider, you know, get you in that web and then he'll take care of you. And you know, I saw it over and over and over. Like, I just couldn't believe, why am I not dead yet?
Right.
Because I just didn't care. If I die, I die, you know what I mean? And I remember, like, I mean, I'm not a bigger guy, and I remember like hanging out with my buddy, and we would just be doing X together, and I'd be like, you know, I remember that night like trying to keep up with everyone doing like X and smoking and like whatnot, and I just remember I started passing out, and like passing out on X is not a good thing because you can go into, I don't even know what it's called, but I just know that was not a good thing, and I just remember like falling and people like shoving me like, wake up, man, and like. And I just remember like that night, because we would go all night long, and like I was just like, I should have died, man. Like, it just like, I know my heart, I already have an enlarged heart, and I can feel like the palpitations all the time, like going through my ribs. So like with the X on top of it, but you know, God's so merciful. Yeah. Even though I was sitting there and I would just blaspheme his name, I didn't care 1 ounce about him. And I know Satan sought to destroy me. I've heard so many stories of guys that went down that path and Satan destroyed them.
Yeah, I mean, he sees the beginning from the end. He sees how he can use you in such big ways if you'll allow him. But I think, you know, he could see, no, not this one. You're not going to get this one, Satan. I got big plans for him. You know, he's going to do what you're doing right now, you know, using your art and your talent to reach the world, you know.
Isn't that interesting? Like, why do we want to like check out so much to the point where we're like passing out? And it's like, is this fun?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, are you having actual fun at that? You know? Why do we do that? Like, it's so strange, man, to me.
Like, just like he was saying, like you don't know the meaning of life or anything. You're not finding the answers. You just want to forget. Like, just anything to get me away from thinking about reality or what this is all about.
And so sad, the beautiful thing that God has given to us, the just miracle in each breath that we take, and the daily life that we have, and the amount of people that you can interact with. And, you know, I mean, when you really live according to God's principles, how beautiful life actually is. Yeah. And you get to Satan's level where he's claiming that you can have all this fun, you can do whatever you want, you can do as much drugs as you want, and you get to the place where you're like, I don't even care if I'm living.
Yeah.
Like, that's the lie that you buy into.
Yeah. Well, you know, and like, I love the story of the demoniac, you know, and I think of that in the state of like, I remember psychedelics, and I remember, I don't know, you know, having a bad trip to such a place where you're so scared you're never going to have reality again. Yeah. And, you know, that's something I would never wish for someone, but I'm thankful to have gone through it so that I appreciate reality so much more now. Like, to be able to have a mind to think, to have clarity. Yeah. Like, beforehand it was just like, nah, I just want to get messed up. But now it's like, no way do I want to be messed up. Like, I actually want to eat better. I want to sleep better. I want to be able to have
clearer thoughts.
Exactly. And then you appreciate it so much more. You know, it's like Jesus says, those who have been forgiven much love much. Those who have gone down such horrible roads, you know, when they find Jesus, when they've gone down that dark path, they love the light. They can't, I truly believe those that will be the closest to the throne were those that were the furthest from him, and that they truly love the Lord so much because of what he did.
Yeah, I can only imagine being in heaven and just walking around going, I don't deserve to be here. I don't deserve to be here. You know, this is amazing, right? And that is such a humbling experience.
And it's crazy. It's literally all about perception, which is really like this war against Christ and Satan. And Satan is always trying to warp our view of the world. Sure. I was editing Pride of Life, and you brought up a Jim Carrey quote, but then I saw a different quote from him. And he said, I'm so serious about no drugs and no alcohol. The world is too beautiful for that. Wow. And I was like, oh, that's interesting, because he's seeing the world beautiful, and someone else could see that same world as dark and depressing. And it's not until you lift that covering from that person that they'll do all they can to protect this beauty that's all around them.
Yeah. I often, I've been sober for almost 8 years now, but I often describe it as needing glasses but not realizing it. So all your life, like, no, I don't need glasses, man, I'm good to go. Because every day you would just be like living in this haze. Like I'm just so used to being a little bit drunk, a little bit high.
A little bit nauseous, a little bit hungover.
But that becomes the new normal, and you don't realize. And it'd be like me being like, "Hey, Kenny, let me try your glasses on just for fun of it." And it's like, whoa, there's actually individual blades of grass. It's not just a green carpet. Like I can see so clear. And so that's where it's at. You try to tell somebody, you don't know how much you'd appreciate life if you were just sober. You don't know how much you're really missing that. No, man, this is life, you know? And then when they finally go 2 months sober, it's just like, dude, I'm totally seeing everything. Like, this is the way it should be. I can memorize things. I can, you know, I used to not be able to memorize numbers, like phone numbers and stuff, and I'd catch myself like, you know, I'm reading or something, and I just happen to glance at what page I'm on or what verse I'm on or something, and the phone rings, and I get on the phone and I get back. Why do I remember I was reading Romans 4:23? Like, just because I glanced at it, but that's something I would have never remembered before.
Here's what's beautiful too, though, is I'm always so shocked at how well God can reinstate the mind. How are you not walking around like, "What's up, bro? You just took too much," you know? Like people, you've seen them; they've melted their minds, and then you see people who have like transformed their life, given their hearts to God, and it's like they're straight as an arrow, thinking clear thoughts, and having, you know, very coherent conversations.
And the Bible even says it will transform you and renew your mind.
That's right. That's right.
Quite physically and literally, He'll renew your mind.
Yeah.
I don't remember where I heard it, but I truly believe it, that the Lord, whatever He asks you to give up, He's going to give you something better in return. And I mean, I've seen it over and over in everything, from video games to drugs to everything, that God had replaced everything in my life for something better. You know what I mean? And wholesome and real, and you don't have to like be ashamed of.
I often use the illustration of wheat pancakes. When I was a kid, I just loved buttermilk pancakes. The white, just cheap wheat, right? And like I remember going over to my aunt's house and they'd serve like wheat pancakes or something. I guess I'd be like, what is this cardboard? I'm not gonna eat that, right? And when I married my wife, she transformed my taste buds, and now I actually prefer the healthier the waffle or pancake, the better. And if you set a white pancake in front of me and that, I would choose the hearty one over every time. And it's just a changing of the taste buds. And now the way that you feel after doing that, it's like way better than the other way. And so I know if you give God a chance, just the joy that you can experience with Him way outpaces the high that you get with the ecstasy or whatever, and then the just drop down, you feel gross, dirty, you know, like and bad. God's is sustaining and this just like actual beautiful joy.
For sure. And another thing about perception is that it's not just our outlook on the world and life, it's also, we need to be mindful of other people's perception of us. You know, Christ says we are the light of the world. We are little hymns, you know, walking around, and when people see us, they're supposed to see an image of Him. So going back to, you know, a lot of people's experience in church, when someone leaves, and I've grown up in a church where multiple people have left as well, there's this correlation like, oh, they left church, they left God. And I realize that's not really the case. Like the person left the church, they left you. You know what I mean? They left the madness that was happening there. And instead of shifting the blame, like the person blames God, no, the person blames us. Like we messed up within this church. What can we do to change that person's perception or experience or love to bring them back into the fold and to really tighten their relationship, not just with us, but with God? I think we need to really be mindful about that.
What if somebody's like, you know what, I'm going to go and try ayahuasca, man, because I feel like I'm searching. I feel like I can find God if I just go and meet this shaman and do some ayahuasca or DMT, because I've heard a lot of stories about people having these supernatural experiences. I've seen them, you know, and but you had an interesting story with that.
Yeah, well, when I came back from the Marshall Islands, like, you know, I was still working with God. I was just starting a relationship with Him and everything. And I started asking questions, right? Because I'm like, all right, I get it. LSD, it's man-made. I get it, you know, all these synthetics and all these whatever, that's all man-made. So tell me about mushrooms, though. Tell me about edibles. Tell me about, you know, ayahuasca, dimethyltryptamine, like certain things you can
take out of a plant or whatever. I'm like, you do the same thing with flour in a sandwich, or you know what I mean, like whatever. Like, why are these bad and are they bad? And like I would get into arguments with people, like, show me, prove it to me, you know what I mean, like, because they couldn't prove it, you know what I mean. And so then
they couldn't prove it.
Well,
So
there's
like,
no,
why
like,
don't you
thus
like
saith the Lord, do not
inhale
do.
this carbon dioxide or monoxide, see how long you last? That's natural.
Well, like with ayahuasca, like when you take it, there's no physical, like it doesn't harm your body in any way, and it doesn't like in any scientific whatever, I haven't seen anything where it like hurts you in any way. And so that was like what I was going off of, and I'm like, so how do we know that the prophets weren't getting high? You know what I mean? Taking ayahuasca and doing all these shamanistic things. And
people come out of those experiences completely changed. They say, my life is forever changed because that one time I went there.
Yeah.
But the same thing can happen with the New Age movement and all
Yeah,
that stuff
exactly.
too.
People that have hardcore heroin addictions, isn't that one of the ways that they use to kind of reset the brain?
Yeah.
Like there's actual like cases where people have overcome a severe heroin addiction through tripping out like this, like going to the umpteenth over here, and then it's all of a sudden like pressing the reset button on your brain or something.
Yeah.
So, not advocating at all.
Yeah, not advocating that at all.
Yeah.
But well, and that's where I was questioning on, right?
Okay.
Because I grew up, and it was don't drink coffee because it's bad, and it's like, why is it bad? And most of the time it was just like, it's bad, don't do it. And when you get raised with that mentality, you're like, and you'd see someone be like, don't eat chocolate, it's bad. And they're eating chocolate, you know what I mean? Or they have this adult like perception, don't watch rated R movies. Like, I can because I'm 18. You know what I mean? But like, so everything's bad at a certain limit, and then it's okay.
Is there an age limit on sin?
Exactly. And so that's how I saw these things. So now I'm questioning everything. Because when I come back, it's not just like, oh, what the church says. No, it's like, what does the Bible say? You need to prove it to me. So when I came back to that, and I'm just like, I was asking my parents, I was frustrating them, and like, just like, I really want to know. So I get back to the States, and a buddy comes over, and he's like, hey, man, I got some ayahuasca. Do you want to, get down with it? And I was like, okay. And so I left the room, and I went to another room, and I started praying. I said, Lord, I really honestly want to know if you are in the ayahuasca, if you made this to benefit man, to help us to come closer to you through some type of whatever in our minds, show me. I honestly, because I really believe God wants us to ask honestly whatever it is. I'm not condoning any of this, okay? Not by any means. But I'm saying, I asked him, and I went back, and we drank it, whatever, and started waiting for the onset. My friends went out and started puking or whatever, and for some reason I didn't puke. And I could feel it starting to set in.
Which I've never heard of a case of anybody not puking.
Yeah, I don't.
There's people who are like, I'm not going to.
Yeah,
it happens every time.
Well,
so that's a miracle, a miracle right there. I'm just saying.
Well, yeah. So like, I got up, I walked out, went back to the same room, and I started asking the Lord. I'm like, Lord, if you're in it, like, make it known to me, like, make it very clear, speak to me, teach me. And I went back. And the night just started progressing and getting more and more intense, and not spiritual. It was started getting more and more demonic, and it just started getting more darker and darker. And I remember, I was like, my room was like kind of like a cabin, and like I had a loft or whatever. And I remember going up to go to sleep, and I just remember I could not just find peace. It was just chaos, and I was just like rolling in my bed, and it was just like getting more and more chaotic, and I could just see like, in the darkness, like figures moving around me, and I could not find that peace, and I keep pleading with the Lord, if you're in it, please help me, you know what I mean? And so when I finally came out of it, that was the last I've ever done it, ever messed with it, because the Lord showed me I am not in that. You know what I mean? Like when he asked Elijah, am I in this? Am I in this? I'm in the still small voice. And this is where I found God. He's in the Word. Amen. And so a lot of people will say those things, but for me, I know that those things have nothing to do with God. You know what I mean? You can lick a toad and see things. but that doesn't make it spiritual. You know what I mean? Because you ask how many people that go down the psychedelic route, how peaceful it stayed, and how clear did it become? You know what I mean? Did it get better and better as you progressed? Did you find more and more understanding about the Lord, or did it become more and more confusion?
Yeah, I think the barometer really is the peace that passes all understanding. Like the closer that you draw to God, you know, there's something different about that. And like you said, man, the proof is in the pudding. You start going and really assessing your life. Is it falling apart? Are things just, you know, like chaotic around you? That's a telltale sign right there, whether or not God's in something or not.
You were honestly and genuinely putting God to the test with this thing, and I think that's why you didn't have an experience where you saw a white light and felt love and all that, because people have that, and that's a deception. God prevented you from seeing that, and instead you saw the black dark figures and the chaos. God was showing you clearly, I'm not in this.
So like that's just like telling me, if you're actually sincere that you want to get close to God, if you ask Him, He will actually show you a really clear sign. We just have to ask Him.
Yeah, that's right. I think it's a challenge to anybody. I mean, if you are seriously truth-seeking and opening your heart to God, no matter how deep you got yourself into sin, if you ask God, reveal yourself to me, He is not going to ignore you. Right. I mean, His desire is to save you to the utmost, and He will not leave you alone. In fact, you will start to see some miraculous things happen. So I think it's a challenge to anybody who's in that space, you know?
For sure. And I really want to make it clear to like whoever's watching, like, but if you take this as you're going to go test God, and you know what you're doing is wrong, God cannot protect you in that stance. You're putting your hands in the devil's, and if you're not sincere in what you're doing,
you're tempting God.
Yeah, we're warning you right now, do not do that.
Good point. And I think that is because the devil's also watching us. And so he knows, wow, this person right here is truth-seeking, and you step on his ground, he's going to be like, he's mine. I better take him now while I have the chance. So you're actually inviting, I think, even worse of a demonic experience by allowing that, you know, sort of testing ground.
Yeah,
I mean, it's way better to not test it just to see if it's real.
Yeah.
I guess I was going to go there next, because I know you were talking about, you know, you ask God about this substance, and you know for you, somebody else could have a very different experience.
Yeah,
still doesn't make it right.
Right.
And I think the important thing for whoever's watching to know is God doesn't need to prove Himself through that substance. God can prove Himself anyway.
Yeah.
And it's better to just ask God, you know, put God to the test anyway, without anything. You know, that to me is an even greater test. Like, look, you get nothing, God. Reveal yourself. You know, make yourself known. Because the other things, you know, especially if you're one of these people, like you had a bad experience, somebody had a good experience, they're more likely to trust it and say that God is in it. And it may not be, you know, it's not. But because of their experience, it changes their, you know, perception about it. So you got to be careful about that.
Yeah, Satan loves to mess with our senses, because most of the time we believe our senses no matter what the book says.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
So I really appreciate you being transparent and sharing that story with us. Now I want to see, like, well, where does God have you right now? Because this is really interesting when you pull up here with this huge beast, and I'm like curious to know like how you got to this point.
Yeah, I used to work at an embroidery shop, and I prayed to the Lord, and every day I would walk out of that embroidery shop and go stand by this pond on my breaks and pray, Lord, I want to work for you. And I kept praying it and praying it and praying it, and I quit working there, and I started doing freelance like artwork or whatever.
What do you specialize in?
Sorry?
What do you specialize in art-wise?
I'd paint windows, you know, like the window painter guys, and I would do like T-shirts. I would like send out like artwork to screen printers, and they would ship them in, and then just like anything digital, whatever anyone needed type of thing, mural stuff. But I started working on a testimony video and a few other videos, because I just felt like I needed to get out and tell, you know what I mean? Like, I just wanted to work for the Lord in some way. You know what I mean? I'm like, I have a camera, I have a computer, let's just start, let's put something together.
That's awesome.
Hey, my name is Jason Shuchuk, and each one of us has a story, and this is part of my story done in symbolism. And after this video, I'll explain all the symbols. Enjoy. God opened the doors for me to work at a school for troubled youth, and that just like opened my mind, just blew my mind seeing these kids just like I used to be, and like showing like my testimony at that school, and seeing how it reached a lot of the kids there, because a lot of them were into drugs, a lot of them were into like craziness, and it just opened the doors for me to be able to talk to them. And so from there, God moved me. I moved up to the northeastern Washington. And I lived like out off grid with my dad, and I would still do ministry stuff up there. I would do like have this tiny YouTube channel, and I would just put videos out there. I didn't care if it reached one person. I wanted to work for the Lord. And then one day I get a call from Don Frost, and he said, "Oh, what are you doing?"
How did he know who you were?
I guess there was a guy in Walla Walla that I used to talk to. He worked for Blue Mountain Television, and I guess they knew each other. And Don was looking for a video editor, and he recommended me to him. Okay. So sent me a call. I went and started working with Don, and did some video editing for him. And he kept telling me about this project that they were going to do, and I didn't care much about it. I was just like, yeah, that's interesting. It's like, he was talking about doing a great big Daniel 2 and carving it and all this stuff. And I'm like, well, I'm not really a carver. And so I do video stuff. And then I was traveling with him, and he's like, hey, we should go look for someone like chainsaw carvers and like learn about this stuff or whatever. I'm like, all right. So I was with them, and we stopped at this school that did chainsaw carving, and they teach you for like 3 days or whatever. Wow. So he got a group of people to come out there, and he's like, we're gonna learn to do this or whatever. I'm like, okay, Don. Wow. And so we're out doing the chainsaw. So
you went to the school?
Yeah, I went to the school, took the 3 days, and I actually fell in love with chainsaw carving. Wow. And so it was really interesting to me. But they started working on the project, but I felt this calling to go to Canada. Some of my friends were in trouble, so I needed to go help them. But while I was gone, they started working on the Daniel 2. And
which is this image guy.
Yeah, right there. And I came back from helping, and I call up Don, see how the project's going, and he says, well, not good, man. Our carver, his parents are actually going to pass away soon. They're not doing too well, so he has to go down to Florida. And I just kind of jokingly said, well, if you need someone, I'm more than willing to. And I totally was just joking, because I didn't and he's like, well, we prayed about it, and we asked the Lord if there's anyone that he would open the doors, and for you to say that you're I'm just like, oh, shoot. Wow. And I was just like, okay, Lord. And so awesome. I went over there, and I started working, and I'm dead serious. I was scared out of my mind. I've only, from carving with him, I only had done a few carvings.
At the school?
Practice at the school or whatever. They're just teaching you cutouts and stuff. And then I did a smaller Daniel 2, just me and my dad tooling around. And then so when I got there to that thing, and you're just standing looking at this tree, you're just like, ay, ay, ay. And I remember looking at it, and I'm like, I felt like David coming against Goliath. This thing was so big. And I cried multiple times just saying, Lord, if you want me to do this, like, I need your help. I cannot. Like, I know physically I don't have the ability. And the other carver had gotten quite a bit, like, off of it already, so he did a lot of the cutouts. And I just remember, like, working on it every day, just pleading with the Lord to help me. And it really increased my faith, just, like, going out there and just, like, keep on working on it.
I think that's why you were the exact right person to work on that. Because I think most often God uses people that are totally unequipped, should not be there, freaked out of their mind to actually work on that thing. Why? Because you have to depend on Him. And when you depend on Him, He can actually equip you properly to do the job.
Oftentimes we get in God's way.
When
like,
we walk up, I got this, fail. You know,
God's like, all right, you said you got it. I'm going to let you do it. But if you're like, Lord, I need you. Lord, you got to do it. Yeah, man. That's amazing.
Yeah. So we got to work on that project and finish it up. And actually, when I kept saying we need to get a rock. Like, you can't have the Daniel 2 without the rock, right? You got to have this rock coming at it. And they're saying, well, you know, we've spent all the money. If you want to do a rock, you got to do it on your own. So I kept praying. I was like, Lord, we need a rock. We need a rock. And this guy one day, I was helping someone move, or I can't remember what it was, from the church in the area, says to me, he's like, so have you guys thought about doing a rock? I'm like, dude, I've been praying about it. And he goes, well, let me tell you, I have an insulation company, like a foam insulation, and we did the different, like, artwork for this Silverwood. It's kind of like a theme park type of thing. He goes, we did all the foam for that, and we worked with the artists. So have you ever thought about doing that out of foam? I'm like, what? Man, that'd be awesome. And he goes, look, come to my shop. I'll give you all the foam you need and everything. I'm like, are you serious? The total answer to prayer. We were able to make a rock, have it there for, like, the opening when it came. And I was just like, thank you, Lord. And afterwards, like, he was so excited about the rock. He comes up to me and says, look, if you want to keep making something, or if you want to do more, I'll help you build the next, like, a beast or whatever you want. And I was just like, whoa, Lord. So with that in mind, it didn't work out that he did it, but it was always in my mind. I started, like, 3D, like, making one on Blender and stuff, and, like, creating it, and I just had it in my mind. We need to make this. And I actually ran into this dude, which was a chainsaw carver from North Dakota.
I don't feel like that's a real common job. Like, you just happen to run into a chainsaw carver. I've never even met a chainsaw carver, you know.
Well, this is what it's come down to. I truly believe, you know, like, if we put our life in God's hands, nothing is coincidence.
Amen.
And everything is set up.
Yeah.
And this dude, his name's Tyler Dick. I mean, like, good dude, man. Like, and we met up at this church, and God opened the doors for me and his family to be able to live together on the same property. And he was just like, and we started carving together. We did that other beast, the big green one. And
the fourth beast of Daniel.
Yeah, and we carved that together. That was an adventure, man. And so that's where we learned, you know, carving foam, really, like, because the rock wasn't as dynamic as, like, this beast was.
Yeah.
So that's where we learned that. And now Tyler has that, and he's going around the States with it, him and his family. And then God opened the doors for us to build this one. So now we're traveling the country with this one.
So you and your family are driving around with the Beast of Revelation. Tyler and his family are driving around with the fourth beast of Daniel.
Uh-huh.
And then this huge image is supposed to be traveling as well. That's pretty cool, man. Like, what a way to witness to people.
It's different.
What are people's responses when you're driving around with this thing?
Well, why don't we go check it out and see how people respond, dude? You want to take it to Walmart? Let's go, man. Come on.
I want to see this.
Is that the Beast of Revelation?
How much is it? It's free.
Very nice.
Free shopping options like delivery and...
That is awesome. I mean, really awesome.
Then I expect to see Brother Scott out here, you know, because my children love watching Little Light Studios.
Oh, no way.
You know what I'm saying, man? Yeah. I picked this message, brother.
I mean, what a fantastic ministry. You know what I mean? Like, what a great way. Because we're visual. We're all visual. And I mean, it's why I think Disney theme parks are so big. You know, people like to go there and see their thing out in all this bigness. And here is a way for us to see the Bible in a physical, tangible way. We can walk around it and be like, you know, what's each one of these horns on his head? Why is there skulls on the side of this thing, you know?
You have people who are so into comics, sci-fi, zombies, monsters, and they look to Christianity or the Bible like, oh, that's so boring. Really?
Yeah,
You sure about that?
We had that first.
The comic book ripped off Revelation.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah.
So speaking of like a theme park or something, you actually have an idea, a concept. What's your idea for what you would like to do with these things?
Oh man, I don't know. It's just the dream in it. I mean, I always thought that would be sweet.
Bring your dreams to God, man.
I don't know. I just always thought it'd be awesome to be able to have an area where someone can literally walk through Revelation or Daniel or whatever it is, where they're walking through each scene, you know, and you can hear it over the speakers or whatever as like a narrator is narrating the whole book just straight from the Bible. It's just like, so the person's just seeing the Bible in living color, you know, and experiencing it. Because I tell you, like, to have a kid walk through that, they will never forget it. You know what I mean? And they can't walk out of there and be like, the Bible's boring. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way.
Have you guys been to the Bible Museum in DC?
I have.
She's talking about that.
It's so cool. The thing is, they use like images on the wall, like projections and paintings and things like that. I think they have a few sculptures, but I think even bringing it to life even more and having something tangible like in front of them would be fantastic. Like that's really unique.
Oh yeah. I mean, you could do so much. I mean, nowadays with like with projectors and smoke and lighting and
fans
sound effects
blowing for the wind.
Oh yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah, I mean, this is just yet another reason where God has placed inside of each and every one of us a sort of creative desire. I mean, your creativity may be with numbers. I don't know, you may be good at statistics or something like that, right? And you may like all of a sudden, like I have a cousin that's actually brilliant, and he actually is so good with numbers. Whatever he's touched, he's thrived with. Can you imagine if that person was like involved in ministry?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like each one of us has this talent, and it's really just opening ourselves up to God and saying, God, how can I use this for you? And look at the way that God opened up doors and just directed your path. Now you're in this hairball drive across the country with a beast in the back of your car.
Oh man, Satan would have loved your talent. Be like, make the most demonic comics, you know? And you're using your talent for God. Just like with me, I used to do music videos and T-shirts that were just really worldly, and now I get to use that same video editing skill and the T-shirts and all that stuff. And it's just awesome to be able to use what God gave you. It's not like you have to be like, well, I really love this thing, but I guess I'm going to be a preacher. No, God can use that thing that He gave you for Him.
No, and that's something I want to tell people is that God made you personally, you know, and He made you so unique. And the more you get to know Him, the more you'll get to understand who He truly meant you to be. You know what I mean? He gave you gifts and talents and skills, and He will show you how to use them correctly. And whatever your skill set, whatever it is if it's cooking, knitting, whatever it is, give it to the Lord. And I hold on, I'm pretty sure it's Psalms 1, that it's in there. If you read it, you'll see that it says, those who keep the commandments, whatever they put their hands to do will prosper. And I truly hold on to that, because He will take whatever you're doing and bless it. You know, I remember at the very beginning of getting in, trying to work for the Lord, I had no clue what I was doing. I just was like, I need to make a video, and I just want to send it out just on Facebook, just tell people about the Lord, you know, and that's all it was. And it just kept growing and growing. Whatever it is, just put your foot forward and God will bless it. Keep going.
That's right. You don't need Tony Robbins. You don't need any of those like self-help guru people. You just need to follow the commandments of God, and He will bless you.
And there's one more thing. Don't be scared of the means. Don't be scared. My family and I've watched it for Tyler and his family as well. I watched God provide for our families like no tomorrow. And I mean, remember, seek first the kingdom, and all these things will be added unto you. your food, your drink, and your clothing. We keep going, and God keeps opening the door for us to be okay, because we don't have jobs. We don't have, I mean, we have jobs, and they're very high up there, I mean, in heaven, but they're not what people think, and people get really like, well, how are you doing that? How can you do that?
Provide?
It doesn't matter with God. You just go forward, and He'll take care of you.
That's right. That's right. We have a T-shirt for that.
Yeah.
Seek ye first.
Kingdom of God.
There you go.
Yeah, man, that's just amazing. You know, powerful testimony. Just great to see that, yeah, God made us personal. He gave us talents. We should be using our talents for God and stepping out in faith like you and your friend, and just trusting that God will provide for all those things. And if you're out there and you have an awesome talent, I just want to encourage you to use that talent. Like he said, it could be as simple as just recording your testimony and putting it on YouTube. That's what I tell everybody. We might not all be preachers, but we all have a testimony, and we all have cameras, and you have no clue how impactful that your story could be. Revelation says that they overcame by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. Just sit in front of your camera, share your testimony, upload it to YouTube, and you have no idea, you'll run into somebody in the kingdom that'll be like, I ran across your video, that's why I'm here. Like, I just can't wait to spend eternity just hearing all the stories of how God reached and used each and every one of us who were willing. And that's the thing, we have to be willing. Just lay it all down and let God use you. Thank you so much for joining us. If you like this video, click like. Don't forget to subscribe and share this with all your friends. And check out some more of our videos. We'll see you next week. God bless you guys.